Hello, everyone. My name is Rohan Patel,
And my name is Patrick Derry.
and we're going to present part of our curriculum on internet safety today. Our topic is social media information and fake news.
So, just to start, what is misinformation? According to the University of Michigan, misinformation is false information that is deliberately created and spread in order to influence public opinion or obscure the truth. And we're just going to go through a couple types of misinformation. I know this slide looks like a lot, but it's more important that you get the main message out of this slide. That is, misinformation can be very harmful and it's bad to share, and it's important to be able to identify it. So, just to go through these, there's satire or parody, which is not intended to cause harm but can, in fact, be misleading. So, a site like The Onion, if you're familiar with that, misleading information is purposely used to frame something in an inaccurate light. Um, there's imposter misinformation, which is when trustworthy news sources are impersonated. We'll see an example of that later. There's fabricated misinformation, which is information that is completely false and is intended to deceive and cause harm. So this just would be like a made-up story, something that just is completely false. There's false connection, which is when there's a headline or a picture attached to something that's super attention grabbing, but the content of the article is a little bit more boring. I think everybody has some experience with that kind of sensationalized journalism nowadays. There's false context, which is when real factual news is presented with false contextual information. And then there's manipulated misinformation, which is when a genuine quote or picture is distorted to fit an agenda. So it could be like somebody's quote was taken out of context or stuff like that. And again, I know this is kind of a lot of information, but the most important thing to take from this is that a lot of misinformation can be harmful, and there's a lot of different types, and we're going to take you through how you can kind of identify it and protect yourself from it. So who's creating it and why? Anybody can create misinformation, really. It's very easy to do. All you need is a website domain, and all you need to do is edit that to make it look like a legitimate news source. And why would people do this? Well, they might want to generate income from advertisements that they can run on their website. It could be due to untrustworthy journalists trying to gain fame with sensationalism, so sensationalist articles. And it's a really effective way to influence people's beliefs, which is arguably the most dangerous part of misinformation. This is just a statistic. It's not meant to criticize anybody or anything like that, but older people are more at risk of sharing misinformation than younger people. 11% of US citizens over the age of 65 shared a link to fake news in 2016 during the presidential election cycle versus only 3% between the ages of 18 to 29. And again, it's not a criticism at all of anybody. It's just to make you aware that this is something that you should be aware of and something that you need to take steps to arm yourself against. We're going to go through a couple examples of some things that might look real at first glance, but they're actually maybe they might be fake. So here is a screenshot from Facebook, and this one's kind of just silly. It says, "Tornado carries a mobile home 130 miles, family inside unharmed." And this one's, you know, if you click on the link itself, it takes you to worlddailynewsreport.com. There's actually a disclaimer that says all this information is false and stuff like that, but not every fake news site will have stuff like that. This one is just kind of for fun, but other ones could be trying to fool you or manipulate you. So this is just kind of what I said. World News Daily Report assumes all responsibility for the satirical nature of its articles and for the fictional nature of their content. All characters appearing in the articles in this website, even those based on real people, are entirely fictional, and any resemblance between them or any person living, dead, or undead is purely a miracle. So they do have this disclaimer on their website, which is good, but again, not every website will have a disclaimer like this, and some of them will be actually trying to fool you. Here's another one. HIV virus detected in Walmart banana after 10-year-old boy contracts the virus. So this might look like it's a screenshot from CNN at first glance, but when you look closer, the logo for CNN is not correct. And also, if this was correct, you could go online and Google banana HIV Walmart, and if it was true, you would see 40 or 50 articles from a lot of other reputable news sources about this kind of thing. But if this is the only thing that comes up, or there's not anything that comes up, that's how you kind of can tell that it's fake. But again, here the logo is a big giveaway that it's not actually real. Here's one from Daily Feed News, which is a satirical news website. And they claim to be satirical, but it's fake news. They're trying to manipulate people. And so you can see there's some of them are kind of more light. So like the first example we saw was a little bit with the trailer home of the family unharmed, but this one you can see breaking news: massive raid ruins Obama, and that's really just very sensationalized. Like we went through earlier, it's just trying to grab your attention and say, hey, like this, he did this bad thing. But there might not be evidence. It might just be completely false, and it is completely false. Um, Here's a screenshot from Facebook. It's from his Facebook it's from a Facebook page called United States Presidential Election 2016, and it all looks very legitimate. You would think that something called United States Presidential Election 2016 would be legitimate, but it's in fact not. If you look on the right side of the page, it even says almost 160,000 people like this page. But again, it's intended to deceive you. That's what these people are good at. They're trying to manipulate people and trying to get them to believe things that aren't true. And so this article says, "Oh my God, Trump to release secret document that will destroy Obama." And so we'll go over this a little bit later, but it's intended to make you have a strong reaction to it, like destroy Obama. A real news source would not use this kind of wording.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just go through a few more examples with you guys before we get to some more pertinent information. So here we see an article from the Washington Post in big headline in bold print, unprecedented. And this one is a little bit more tricky because it's actually a screenshot of the Washington Post, and we have photoshopped in a fake news article. So this is a little bit more cynical than some of the lighthearted satirical examples we have already looked at. This is actually trying to take a reputable news source and make you believe misinformation under the false pretense that it is an article written by the Washington Post. So here we have one that at first glance, the first thing that comes to mind for me is I look at the logo, and right off the bat, the ABC News logo does seem to be a little bit cheap or not quite as polished as it would normally be. We have an article here titled Obama Signs Executive Order Banning the Pledge of Allegiance in Schools Nationwide. So that is a very sensational headline. That would be a very controversial topic. And again, as my partner Rohan has already alluded to, you could go ahead and Google Pledge of Allegiance right after reading this and see that no other articles are going to pop up corroborating the information in this story. But the thing that we want to draw your attention to here is actually the URL in the search bar up top, abcnews.com.co. So what we have here is somebody may search ABC News in Google and see a website called abcnews.com.co and think, oh, well, that has to be ABC News, when in fact, abcnews.com would be ABC News's website. And adding this .co is a way that some fake news websites get around that and trick you into seeking out their information. So we're just going to talk a little bit about why it is important not to share misinformation. Research has shown that Facebook, logo there on the right, is the most common way that people get to fake news websites. And the study that Rohan talked about earlier, alluding to older people sharing misinformation more frequently, was actually a study done with Facebook shares. So definitely that is a playground for people trying to spread fake news. And the second point here is really important. It's talking about spreading falsehoods about information that could actually have a really, really big impact on people's lives. So we had the one article that talked about HIV being found in bananas in Walmart, and things like that, where you're talking about illnesses, can have a real impact on people's lives, especially when you're spreading misinformation about treatments for illnesses and things like that, where people, there's 330 million people in the United States. So if you tell somebody that there's a cure for cancer, somebody's going to try it, and that could be very harmful. The third point, I think we can all agree on: spread of fake news creates a less well-informed population, which isn't good. We want everybody out there to have the proper information to make their own decisions and have well-informed opinions. And that last point just kind of rounds that out. So what should tip you off? First point here, you have a strong emotional reaction to the information. So this is for me always kind of my first tip off. When you read some of those headlines, they're very sensationalized. Some of them even start with, "Oh my gosh," and then you get all amped up and you want to read the rest of the headline and get into the article. Anything sensational like that should immediately tip you off. Okay, maybe this isn't real news. Second point, a story seems completely ridiculous or perfectly conforms to your beliefs. So we all have our own implicit biases. And when we see articles that maybe fall in line with our politics or our religious beliefs or what have you, we're going to be much more likely to read that and think, well, this is what I already thought, so it must be true, even if it is indeed misinformation. And that kind of just allows people to live in a realm where they think everything they think is correct, which is sometimes not true. The third one, you're going to spend a lot of money because of it. We actually have another video series talking about phishing scams and things like that on the internet. And if they're telling you that you need to pay or anything like that, that's usually fake news. That's misinformation. That's something you don't want to click on. And if it's something you immediately want to amplify. So this goes back to the sharing on Facebook. If you read an article, in that article, the title alone makes you want to click the share button before you've even read it, that's exactly what they want you to do. You're falling right into that trap. So you want to kind of take a step back, think about it, and employ some of the strategies that we're going to talk about soon here on how to corroborate whether it's fake news or not. So here we're going to get into that a little bit, just kind of ways you can cross-check those resources and information and delineate between real news and misinformation. The first is to investigate the website. A lot of times they're going to have names that sound a lot like real news websites, but they may not be that actual site. So we go back to that abcnews.com.co or the World News Daily Report, right? Those sound like they would be reputable news sites, but they are in fact not. And if you investigate the website, like with the World News Daily Report, you will see that there's a disclaimer right at the bottom in bold print that it is in fact satirical news. Second bullet point question, who wrote it? This is really simple, right? There's a byline at the top or at the bottom of most articles, certainly most reputable articles. Take that author's name, search it in Google, and see what else they're writing about. See what other types of content the author has. And a lot of times that can lead you to whether or not it is misinformation or not. Looking for confirmation. We've already gone over this a little bit. You know, if it's a major case like HIV and bananas at Walmart, search that into Google. You're going to get 50 articles, like Rohan said, that will corroborate that information if it's true. If it's not, you're not going to have any articles. And I think we all would understand that if there was something like that, as most of these sensational articles are, there would be 50 or 60 articles out there about it. Fourth point, thinking about the evidence. This is a little bit more secondary, I guess. It's a little bit more in depth. Read through the article, and if the article does offer evidence to support their claims, then dig into that evidence, kind of get into a second order type of cross-checking. And then fifth, ultimately, you have to consider, why is this article being written? What is the author's agenda, and what are they trying to get you to think? So this is just a couple little points here on how we can fight misinformation. Call people out who share misinformation. So if you see somebody who has shared something on Facebook that you are friends with, or you are close with, or even just friends with on Facebook, maybe not publicly, you don't have to shame them in the middle of the Facebook timeline, but maybe shoot them a DM or shoot them a text or give them a call and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that the information you're sharing doesn't seem to be up to snuff. And I think that you should maybe read in depth a little bit more before sharing. And that goes into the second point of educating those around you on the danger of misinformation. So I think that maybe with the older population, one of the big barriers to fighting misinformation is knowledge of misinformation existing in the first place. So if you can have these conversations and share this video with your colleagues and with your friends, and maybe just talk about it, bring the subject up, that goes a long ways. All right, so this brings us to the end of today's session on misinformation and fake news. There are multiple other videos in our series about internet safety. So hopefully you have a chance to check some of those out. But thanks for tuning in with us today. And hopefully you can check out some of those other videos. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everybody. I hope this was informative for you guys. Please don't be afraid of misinformation or anything like that. You just got to be smart about it and think about it. And just if it makes you feel emotional, that's what the aim is. So remember, just kind of search it out, cross-check it and make sure there's other news sources supporting these claims. Thank you for your time again, though. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.